Okay, so picture this. You're in a museum, right? And you turn a corner,
Okay.
and bam, you're face to face with like a lion.
Oh.
It's so lifelike. You almost jump back like it's about to pounce or something. But
Yeah.
then you remember taxidermy.
Right.
That's the magic we're diving into today.
I love it.
The art, the skill, all of it.
It's amazing.
And to help us unpack all this, we've got our expert here, and we're using RoleCatcher's Career Guide as our main source this time.
Excellent choice. It's a great resource.
So I guess to kick things off, when we talk about a career in taxidermy, where do we even begin?
You know, it's funny you mention that museum scenario because it really challenges how most people think of taxidermy. You know, everyone pictures like a dusty old deer head at a hunting lodge.
Right.
But museums are a huge part of this field.
Totally. It's not just about preserving animals. It's about like presenting them almost like a sculpture, creating a scene. It's art.
Exactly. RoleCatcher makes a big point that these professionals work in all kinds of places. Museums, research labs, private collections, you name it.
So much more than just that deer head on the wall, huh?
Oh, yeah. One day you could be recreating some extinct dodo bird for a museum, and the next you're restoring a family heirloom for someone. That's got to be rewarding, bringing something back to life like that.
I bet. Okay, but let's get into it. What does a taxidermist actually do on a daily basis?
Well, RoleCatcher goes into the nitty-gritty, and it's pretty wild. You have to carefully skin the animal, preserve the hide so it doesn't decay.
Wow, so you're thinking long term.
Oh, yeah. Years, even decades down the line.
So it really is a blend of art and science then.
Absolutely. You need the anatomical knowledge to recreate the animal's form, but you also need an artist's eye for detail. A sculptor's touch, you could say.
And RoleCatcher even mentions a psychological element to it.
That's right. It's about capturing the essence of the animal. A ferocious predator is going to look different than, say, a family pet.
Right, like a peaceful pose or something.
Exactly. It's about understanding the story the client wants to tell.
So it's like capturing a memory, but in this super tangible, three-dimensional way.
I like that.
Now, RoleCatcher also gets into how technology is changing the game. 3D printing, digital scanning. This isn't your grandma's taxidermy anymore.
No kidding. What's really cool is how those advancements, especially 3D printing, open up a whole world of possibilities.
Right.
Like imagine perfectly recreating an endangered animal without harming a single one in the wild.
Okay, now that's really cool.
Yeah.
Talk about art meeting science, meeting conservation.
Exactly. And that's where the whole debate comes in about traditional versus modern techniques.
Right, it's like this clash between the old ways and these crazy new technologies.
Yeah, it's really interesting. RoleCatcher mentions how some people feel like the traditional methods are just more authentic. Like you can see the artist's hand in every stitch.
Right, like comparing a handmade sweater to one made by a machine. They're both cool, but there's a different vibe.
Exactly. But then these new technologies are doing things we never thought possible. Imagine using a digital scan to perfectly capture the texture of like a bird's feather.
Whoa, so where does all this leave someone who's like, I want to be a taxidermist? Is that even a real career option these days?
RoleCatcher actually gives a pretty realistic look at that too. It's not the fastest growing job market or anything, but there's definitely a need for skilled taxidermists.
It's pretty niche for sure. RoleCatcher mentions a salary range of $25,000 to $50,000 a year.
Yeah, but like any field, a lot goes into that.
Experience, I'm guessing.
Definitely reputation too, but also what you choose to specialize in. Someone who restores antique fish for museums is going to have a different clientele than someone who does like pet memorials.
Makes sense, finding your lane.
Exactly. And RoleCatcher stresses how important networking is in this line of work. Joining associations, going to events, connecting with other taxidermists. It's not just about finding clients either.
Oh, yeah.
It's about learning and growing as an artist.
So it's a surprisingly social field then. I'd picture it's more like people alone in their workshops not talking to anyone.
Right. But it makes sense when you think about it. They all share this passion for nature and preserving it. And like any art form you learn from each other, bounce ideas around.
Can you imagine the stories behind some of these pieces, though? Like, if a taxidermy bear could talk.
Oh, man. And the skill to bring those stories to life is incredible. RoleCatcher actually points out how the time to finish a project can vary wildly. Like, a tiny hummingbird could take weeks, while a huge elk could be months.
Each one is like its own journey.
Yeah.
Like a whole process from start to finish.
It really is. It takes a lot of dedication, for sure.
It makes you wonder about the people who do this, too.
Oh, totally. And RoleCatcher even touches on some of the philosophical side of taxidermy.
Okay, hold on. Philosophical and taxidermy. Those two things don't usually go together.
I know, right? But it makes sense when you think about it. You're taking something that was alive and like freezing it in time, blurring the lines between life and death almost.
It's true, capturing a memory, but in a really physical way.
Yeah. And as technology gets even better, those lines are getting even blurrier. Like, is a 3D printed butterfly any less amazing than a real preserved one? It makes you think.
That's deep. And it makes you think about the connection people feel with these pieces, too. Does it feel the same if it's a replica?
Exactly. Like, if you had a taxidermied pet, would it feel the same if it was 3D printed? It's fascinating to think about. And it's those bigger questions that make taxidermy more than just a technical skill.
Totally. It sparks conversations, connects us to history, nature, even
I
ourselves.
couldn't have said it better myself.
So for our listeners who might be feeling inspired, thinking about a career in taxidermy, what would you say is the most important thing to remember?
I'd say approach it with respect. Respect for the animals, the craft, and the ethics involved. It's not for everyone, but for the right person, it's incredibly rewarding.
It's a unique path, for sure. And like with any adventure, it's about going in with curiosity and an open mind. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of taxidermy, we have one last question for you. If you were a taxidermist, what amazing creature would you want to bring back to life? Think about it, and until next time, happy exploring.